At Nutrafol, we don't just help your hair, we help your body grow it. Because it's never just about your hair. It can be your job, or your deodorant, or your lunch, or just normal life. That's why our whole body approach targets the key root causes of hair thinning. Discover your root causes and why we're the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand at Nutrafol.com. That's Nutrafol.com. These statements have not been approved by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Paid for by Nutraceutical Wellness, Inc.
Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to Monday with Merv, our new regular feature for the season. It's a big welcome back on the show after a short break, a bit like Ivanovic. He was here briefly, then he went away, but now he's come back again. It's Merv Payne. How you doing, Merv?
I'm good, thanks, Nick. Yeah, really good.
Yeah, welcome back to the show. We were just saying off air, mate. It's really nice to be able to do a show in happy circumstances. The mill scene's reverberating after that fine 3-0 win Saturday. It makes a nice change, Merv, doesn't it, rather than have a misery fest?
Definitely, yeah. It just feels good. You sort of forget what that. Yeah, it only takes a couple of defeats, and you forget what that feeling feels like on Sunday morning, Monday morning. Oh God, we won, and not having to hide away from the EFL show on Saturday night, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's nice, and it wasn't just a win; it was a really good performance and a really good win. So yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to come on to. In fact, I'll play us our first voicemail from Barry Moon, 'cause it leads quite nicely into that very point. So I'm going to play Barry's voice note. Thank you, Barry, for leaving this for us, mate. We'll have a quick listen to your voice note. It's only a short one.
Hello, Nick. Barry Moon here. Just a call about Saturday's game. A lot of people are saying that on there, they're getting stories about how poor Sheffield Wednesday were. Well, I beg to differ on that one, because I thought we were magnificent. I thought the whole team and everything was great that day. It's one of the best performances I've seen for a long, long time, especially after suffering it on Tuesday night, which you were lucky enough to miss. But, by God, we did play well. So I think it was a little bit unfair to keep saying how bad they were. And I think Mike Avery might have mentioned the same sort of thing as yourself, saying that we were just magnificent. So I'm pleased for them, and I'm pleased for Neil Harris, because I thought, as you say, that first goal we scored, that was as good a football goal as any goal that scored that day anyway. So I'm really pleased. Anyway, thanks for your shows, mate. I really enjoy them, and hopefully see you now and then. All right, mate, look after yourself.
Big thank you to Barry. He makes a good point, Merv, because I think I've fallen foul of this a little bit myself. It's finding the line between us playing well, which we did. We played very, very well, and the opposition being poor. I mean, where one leads into the other is a fine judgment. But I think Barry's correct. It was, the more I think about it, it was a magnificent performance on Saturday. How did you see it, the 3-0 win?
Yeah, it was, especially the second half. It was the sort of performance we used to become sort of used to in the days of when we were winning promotion from League One and stuff like that. And we sort of we looked like we were going to score when we went forward, whereas we didn't look like we know what we were doing half the time before now. But
Yeah.
And it's always good when your new striker scores on his debut, isn't it? Because there's always that sort of, at least his home debut. You sign a striker. I remember when we signed Cascarino, and there was obviously massive pressure because he was a record signing for us, and that sort of had never gone well in the past. And the first home game where we played Barnsley, and I think Teddy scored, and when he scored, and it really gives you a boost. You think, it doesn't mean obviously he's going to be a great success, but you enjoy the one game at a time, and he had one chance and he scored with it and he put it away really well, and he seems to link up well with Watmore as well, which I think is encouraging. They look like they've got a bit.
They look an exciting duo, don't they?
Yeah,
it's funny,
I don't know if they did work together well at Borough, but they look.
I don't know. I mean, my spy network up at Borough didn't speak well of either of them, really. I mean,
no, I saw a post. I saw a post on Facebook about a Millwall supporter who's been living in the North East for the last 20 years, and he said he doesn't go to Millwall anymore, but he watches Borough from time to time, and he says this Coburn's awful. He said he's slow, he's got
Yeah.
no skill. So I thought, well, it doesn't bode well. But that's not.
No.
There was no evidence of that on Saturday at all. He looks really lively. He looks to really complement the team, and it was so nice not to have to see a little bloke up front having to run his legs off and getting nothing out of it. Because as much as criticism as Bradshaw gets from some people, I think what else can he do? He's a certain striker playing in a different sort of role. He was always used to playing off a big sort of striker alongside him. So,
Absolutely.
and I feel pleased for Neil Harris, because I think like he's got now a forward player who can play in the sort of system he wants. So it's really
absolutely. It's funny actually. We're talking about Cascarino and scoring. I was trying to find, and I will. This is not definitive, listeners, but I was trying to find the last time that a debutant for Millwall scored on his debut, and the one I've come up with here, Merv, is Chris Wood in a 2-1 loss, and that was going back to 2012 against Brighton, home loss at the Den. But I mean, I would say Chris Wood was a successful striker with us. He scored 11 goals in his short term with us. But there may be others. If anyone can think of any others off the top of their heads,
you got me thinking now. I think, of course,
message me.
Yeah,
I couldn't come up with many. Chris Wood was the one I just looked at on Mill history.
Yeah, the pedants will pull us up and say that obviously Cass scored on his home debut, not his actual debut, because I think we played Borough away the week before, didn't we? But I think the home debut is the important one, isn't it? Yeah. But I think, thinking of that, I think Phil Barber scored on his home debut.
Did he?
I'm sure he did. I can see it, I'm sure. And I think it was this. I think we were wearing this same kit. I think it was when we had Chris Armstrong for like all of 5 minutes. And I'm sure. I think we put 4. I could be totally wrong with this, but because it's about 30 years ago. But I think we beat Sunderland. I think we beat Sunderland 4-1. I think Armstrong scored. I'm sure Phil Barber, because obviously no one was happy we'd signed Phil Barber, from what I can remember.
In some ways, George Honeyman I keep hearing people moaning. No one's really slagging him in my reading of social media, but it's people kind of moaning that he's not the most inspirational player. But he reminds me a lot of Phil Barber, who made a career out of being very, very workmanlike. I don't know if this is a fair assessment, but he made himself very useful. Every manager seems to like those kind of water carrier players, Merv. That's George Honeyman.
Yeah, I think Honeyman's fits that bill perfectly. Yeah, and I think Barber was that sort of player, because people grudgingly changed their opinions on him, because he did put in some really good performances in that team. And I think Nicky Chatterton was another one as well.
Both players who carried the weight of being Palace as well. Both.
I think that's probably a big part of it, and they had a lot more to prove. But certainly. I have to think about more debut scorers. I'm sure there's plenty, but people. I think you'll get a flood of suggestions now.
Yeah, correct me, listeners. People love to correct you when you put your head above a parapet, Merv. People love to shoot at you, don't they?
People. Everyone will have their own personal favourite as well, won't they? Really, but
debutant scorers for Millwall. As I say, I've come up with Chris Wood in 2012, but I'm not going to make any stretch and say that's definitive. But I just thought Josh Coburn did so well for us on Saturday. I mean, like you just said, the reports from Borough implied he was a bit of a lump rather than a player that looked like he was not afraid to get the ball at his feet and actually run with it. That took him. He's got the tallness and the ranginess, but weren't expecting that side of the game. So brilliant start.
We've been crying out for someone who can get like a half chance or get one chance and put it away, rather than needing 3 or 4 to get, and that's what's been happening, I think, or certainly last season maybe. And he looks that sort of player who give him half a chance and he'll put it away. So hopefully I've not jinxed him now with that. But
no, that's probably the first goal and the last goal he'll score for us. But what a spirit raiser! Obviously we had that kind of strange, transfer window evening where at the last death of it, Zian Fleming was flying in his personal helicopter up to the glamour of Burnley. So it could easily have seen a fairly downbeat Den, but the game was good and the crowd were up for it, and the performance really matched it. It's great to see it, Merv.
Yeah, I think there wasn't much surprise at Fleming leaving, and I think, I just think all through Friday on deadline day we kept hearing stories that Millwall would turn down bids from Burnley. And I was actually working really late, and I kept flicking over to X to see what was going on. And waiting. And 1 minute I was sort of really pleased with the arrival of Coburn, and then wondering if the Ivanovic sale had fallen through, and then suddenly you see, I flicked on just at the moment I saw Fleming gurning back at me in a claret and blue shirt, and I saw red, and and I thought that the transfer window had started off good, then it was really quiet and quite worrying, and it had this brilliant end, and suddenly that was like a kick in the teeth. But when you think about it, I think it's fairly obvious that the Ivanovic transfer only happened because of the Fleming one. Yeah. And when you balance it up, in the cold light of day, we pay 1.7 million for a player who has gone for a reported 7 million, could even rise to 10. That's the sort of business we've got to be doing. That's why, I know people don't like to keep making this comparison, but that's why Brentford are established in the Premier League, because they did just that. Yeah. They found players that people hadn't heard of. They'd get some player from France or whatever, 1.5, 2 million quid, and then before you know it, 18 months later, it's gone for 20 million, and then they bought 3 players over, and suddenly that's the signing of Ivanovic, the club sort of heralded as the sort of player we want to buy, i.e. young, who can develop and then be sold on. And I've seen some negative comments about that, but that's the only way we're going to progress as a club. It's no good having a player like Jeb Wallace, who plays brilliant for us, then we let his contract run out and let him go somewhere else for free. It's just, and that could have happened with Fleming, to be fair. So for all my rants at the time of Fleming going, which I later deleted because
very mature of you, Merv. I do admire that.
You know what? I thought I'll never ever change. I've just as pissed off on Friday night hearing Fleming had gone as I was when I heard Tony Towner and John Seasman had gone, John Fashioner had left.
I'm going back now.
I'll never. And then the day I am not pissed off about a good player leaving Millwall is a day I'll probably just pack up and
turn it in. It's time to go.
Yeah. I did get a bit too carried away, but in the cold light of day, it was good business, and it's enabled us to hopefully get a really good new player in. Or we don't know how many of those deals it financed, but yeah, it was good business for the club.
It must have helped a lot. I mean, obviously, there's the humorous point of Ivanovic's toe not being. Metatarsal, was that in your toe?
I actually did that last year. It's the one of the bones on top of your foot that's sort of behind your toe, and and it seems really innocuous, but it's just an absolute bugger.
I suppose more if your profession is playing professional football.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and I think it's one of those for footballers you've got to be careful of, not to rush them back too quick.
Yeah.
So we've got the international breaks that nicks 2 weeks off of it, doesn't it? And.
Yeah, that's true. I'm looking forward to seeing the boy once he's fit, once he's ready to go. Nice. He comes well reported. Yes, and as you just said, Merv, that's exactly the kind of business we've got to do, because Brentford's the obvious name, but I'd also throw anyone that don't like it. Look at Bournemouth and look at Brighton. No, both of whom are teams that have been like Brentford, have been at rock bottom in their time.
Yeah, I mean,
they've hauled themselves up by this method.
People say they've all had wealthy backers, but because of financial fair play, you can't just lob money at it. You've got to build it, and you've got to justify what you're spending. And you've got to, quite often just lashing out loads of money on the latest so-called big thing doesn't always pay off, doesn't always work out, So that is the sort of, I'm sure that's what we're aiming for. So I think we just got to be patient and trust the club with the transfer side of it.
Absolutely. Let's move along. Big thank you to Barry for that opening message. I'm going to play the next one on my list. I've got them all arranged on my screen. I'm going to go with Angelo Miliotto. Let's have a listen to Angelo.
Hi Nick, Angelo here, mate. Thought I'd give you a couple of minutes of my views on today. Brilliant performance. I thought today the experienced pros, our older players were all fantastic, all of them, mate. I actually thought that George Honeyman, I'm a bit of a critic of George Honeyman, but I thought George Honeyman was 11 out of 10. He was my favourite player today. The graft he put in, got knocked down a few times, got back up and just kept battling on. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. Also, Saville, unbelievable fitness levels, mate. The guy just didn't stop today. Unbelievable. Dinor, brilliant performance. And, mate, I forgot how good it is to have a target man as a striker. What a brilliant performance for his debut for Coburn, mate. He was a pain in the arse for their defenders the whole game. He just run out of steam, didn't he, towards the end when they had to take him off. But yeah, brilliant, mate. Absolutely brilliant. Brilliant atmosphere. A comfortable win. Brilliant by Harris. Got a little bit concerned when he started doing a lap of honour and banging the badge. Didn't know what that was about. Seemed a bit strange to me. I'm still worried about the problems upstairs. There's not. It's not. They're not working in harmony. They need to sort that out, mate. If Harris can't work with Gallen, then Gallen's got to go, mate. Simple as that. Just get rid of him. Because there seems to be some kind of friction. I just get that feeling anyway. But yeah, all good, mate. Great day, great result, and bit of a shame about the signing a £3 million injured player, but let's hope he will be ready in a couple of months. Right, that's it from me, Nick. Great night, good mood. Thank you, Millwall players. Thank you, Neil Harris. Great day at the Den. Catch you later, Nick. Hope you're well, mate. Take care. Bye.
Thank you, Angelo. So nice to have happy messages, listeners, not the downbeat stuff that Merv and I have referred to already. Yeah, the lap of honour was a weird moment. I didn't quite know what to make of it. It was almost Jurgen Klopp style, Merv, at the end of the game. I think it was just like a relief. I'm putting it down to a sense of relief and unburdening on Neil Harris's part.
Yeah, I mean, it's been sort of resurrected again today because the club put the video clip on their X account with just that video with a lion emoji and a blue heart emoji, and people have thinking, "Oh, he's waving goodbye." And I think that's just what he always, as someone said, win, lose or draw, he always thanks the fans. Obviously,
Yes, he does.
It's obviously easier to do that when we've won. And the club, and I think the club's social media channels are run really well, and I think the content they put out is really good and really well thought out. And they do love to publish little snippets of that post-match sort of celebration scenes, whether it's players and I think people are getting a bit carried away. But I do think there's probably a bit of it might have been not an up yours gesture because that's not his style. But I think he's obviously had a lot coming for a bit of stick in the start of the season, me included, because I was criticising the comments about the defence. And he probably feels, that he's been given the chance. And he did keep saying, give us the whole transfer window to sort something out and we'll get something sorted out. And as usual, he's been proved right. So maybe it was a sort of bit of defiance as well from certain supporters who perhaps didn't have the faith in him. But I don't think he's quitting. I do agree that there might be a bit of friction with upstairs, but it's just the football clubs are run so differently these days. The head coach, as he's now called, doesn't have any sort of say in the transfers. It's the recruitment team that source them and basically hand them to him and say, there you go, you tell us what sort of player you want and I'll give you this X, Y, and Z. So whether there was some friction about the Fleming deal or there's all sorts of, we do get carried away with interviews and things that are said. I mean, for me, the telling one was he said last week that there would be, when just before Nisbet left, he said there could be players who have their own agendas who could be leaving.
Yeah.
So obviously we knew one of them was Nisbet because he wanted to go back up to Scotland. But there was speculation who are these other players? Is it Amaku? Is it But we just don't know, and we'll never know. So it's sometimes it's pointless really getting too carried away with it.
We do love a soap opera at the Den, Merv. So I think I got caught in that today because people were presuming they were reading. It was just a mere picture for anyone who didn't see it.
Yeah,
it was a picture from Saturday of Neil Harris kind of chest thumping the badge, and saying thank you to the fans as you say, Merv. But people were reading into it that he'd gone, and I must admit in the moment I thought, oh God, here we go again, another managerial crisis at the Den. How many more can we stand of these? And I got caught up in the thing. I was messaging people saying, "Has he gone? What's going on?" And then someone, as jokesters often do online, listeners, they reposted his last resignation, which was, unless you caught the date of it being 2019. Well, he's gone. We've lost our talisman after the best performance in some time. So I fell for it. I'm not too proud to admit that. But I imagine there's a bit of a pressure. I mean, first win of the season, we have been unlucky so far, Merv. I mean, I think performance-wise, you can criticise the 3-2 loss at home to Watford and then the Bristol City game away 4-3. But there were large patches of those games where we really weren't too bad, and it was only defensive errors and individual mishaps that let us down. Really, I mean, I think Neil Harris said himself, eliminate those, and Saturday's the kind of performance you'll get. So I don't think they were disastrous performers. It was just unlucky. We
Yeah.
hit the post about 3 times in the 2 games, so we can't
Yeah,
complain
we
that.
did. Yeah, Watford we were really unlucky. I think what is looking up increasingly obvious is that defence without Tanganga is
Yes,
all at
yeah,
sea. But when he's one of those defenders, when he's in there, the rest of the defence knows what they're doing. When he's not,
mm,
they all look a bit. When he's there, they're a defensive unit. Including the goalkeeper. But when he's not, they're just a bunch of individuals. Because you saw the goals we conceded against Watford and Bristol. There was no sort of pattern to the defence at all. No, and no one knew what was going on.
yeah,
And that was my only criticism of Harris this season, was that we probably need another Tanganga sort of character in that defence to strengthen the defence. Because the trouble is, suspensions are going to happen, injuries are going to happen,
yeah.
and I think on its day the defence is good, like Saturday, obviously. Who knows, if we'd had Tanganga for the first 3 games, we might be looking
It
at
might have looked
three,
different.
3 wins out of 4. I mean, we're not having any trouble scoring goals. We've scored 8 goals in 4 league games, which is brilliant.
No,
And I mean,
no.
Harris is right to say that. Well, with the defence sorted, we'll carry on scoring and we would do well. But I was quite keen to get that Rocky guy we were after from Hibs, the Belgian centre back.
Right.
He looked. Well, there was only rumours that we were after him, but he sounded a very similar sort of strong, sort of defensive sort of player. That's all. The defence as it stands is fine, but as soon as you get injuries and suspensions, which you're going to get with defenders,
Yeah.
we've been really
The
lucky with
whole
Cooper over the years. Yeah, you need a
the
backup, but
whole show through, don't they?
you can't
Yeah.
afford to say, "Oh, well, Tanganga's out for 6 weeks with a hamstring injury," so that you just think, "Well, we're going to just leak goals now, then again," and it's going to, knock us back off course. But it is what it is.
Absolutely. We're going to take a short break, and after these messages, we're going to come back with John Rankin.
Achtung, Millwall.
Hi Nick, hi listeners, that's more like it. Millwall 3, Sheffield Wednesday 0, John Rankin here, just ringing in. We went up to see the game, and what a great performance it was. Totally different. A couple of things I'd like to mention. I thought Tanganga was absolutely superb. That result today was built on the foundation of a solid defence. I spent the first sort of 10-15 minutes of the game trying to watch him as much as possible, and he's absolutely brilliant. He's in the right place at the right time, just does the simple things. His heading of the ball is superb. Always gets there in front of his opposition, the person he's marking. And Jake Cooper seems to play so much better with Tanganga. Jake was putting his foot in and tackling and not fouling people, and the pair of them just worked really well. And if we can carry on with that back four, then, it's going to be a really good foundation to build on. In front of them, you had Casper Denor, who played really well, and George Saville, tremendous. George Hanneman, busy. I thought Roman Essay played really well. Worked hard off the ball, put some great tackles in. And, man of the match had to be Duncan Watmore for me. Absolutely brilliant, inspired performance. And the new lad, Coburn, so pleased for him to get that goal underneath the CBL. For one moment, we thought he was going to sky it over the bar, and I thought, that'd crush him, but it hit the roof of the net. And what a fantastic time to see 2 goals in open play as well. I think the third one was Casper Denor cutting down the right-hand side and crossing it in for Jake Cooper. So, really, really good performance. You can't fault it, really. I mean, Sheffield Wednesday, again, no mugs. They do blow a bit hot and cold, but they got Barry Bannon there, pulling the strings in midfield. But I have to admit that Josh Coburn was absolutely superb. I saw him take the ball off Bannon, and it was his work off the ball which I was very impressed with. He's a big lad, nice and tall, and I think the future's bright if we can continue to play like that. Couple of words on the transfer activity. Not quite sure what's happened with the Serbian guy having a metatarsal injury after we've lashed out £3 million on him. But, don't quite know what to make of that. But obviously hopeful that he's going to be a big contributor. And it'd be nice to be able to get behind someone who's tall and aggressive. and it'll give the team an outlet. And I think Josh Coburn gave the team a good outlet out front as well. What a difference to have a big, tall, target man to aim for, who can actually pressurise the centre halves and hold the ball up and win a few in the air. Absolutely brilliant. Suits our style of play. It may not be, total football a la Barcelona, but doesn't matter. I thought we played some really nice football down the flanks, some very, very good passing play, and I thought it was a good Millwall performance. Sad to see Zian Fleming go, but there you go. I mean, he was a one-season wonder for me. Last season, he was nowhere to be seen, and it was good while it lasted. And let's hope we get the £7 million for him. Wish him all the best. Bit strange seeing him in claret and blue, but there you are. No sort of ill feeling there from me. And a good performance from Millwall into the international break now to recoup. So come on, you Lions.
Yeah, I mean, the Coburn choice up front makes it more logical. If you're going to go long ball, Merv, I mean, you've said already, we've got, poor little Tom Bradshaw chasing after high balls lumped towards him with no other alternative. But it does make sense to have a decent, tall, big striker up front. I don't mind that style of football. I mean, a lot of people get quite sniffy.
Yeah. I was going to say, direct football, there's lots of versions of it, isn't there? If you're just aimlessly hoofing it and hoping to get some scraps, then that's not good to watch. But you can be direct by getting it forward quickly.
Yeah.
And lots of crosses in the box is exciting, and if it ends up in the net. Whereas if you're just passing it sideways until you knock it forward and lose it, that's just horrible to watch, and it's just
Pointless
uninspiring.
football.
It's the crowd time. I thought his point about Essay was good. I don't know if it's coincidence, but I don't want to start any conspiracy theories or anything. It's just a thought that if the combination of Fleming going and this new deal that Essie's been given has revitalised him, because I think last season there was always this thought that whoever was in charge at the time couldn't decide, whether to play Fleming or Essie. They didn't seem to work in the same team, and Fleming seemed to always get the nod. I think Essie felt like he was always going to be behind him. I think now that Fleming's gone and he's got this new deal, maybe he really feels like the club has shown some faith in him. Yeah, and that's looking like it's paying off. It might just be coincidence. He's been playing well all season, to be fair, but I think it's credit to Harris for playing him and playing him and playing him, because he will only get better now. Yeah,
I really like him. I mean, he's yet to prove. I mean, the only difference I'd say, the only advantage that Zian Fleming would have over Romain Essie for me is that Fleming has, in championship terms, has been there and done it. He's played 2 seasons. He's scored goals, and he's become his player of the season, I think. And he's established. He's there. He's established. But if you take it as a kind of a skill for skill, potential for potential, I think Romain Esse is in a different category to Zian Fleming. That might sound like sour grapes to any listening Burnley fans. I don't know if we have any. But I don't mean that. But I just think as a player, I don't think Zian is as top draw as maybe Zian thinks he is. And thankfully that Burnley think he is, because maybe playing with better players might help him. I don't know. But I just think in terms of sheer ability, Merv, I'd take Romain Esse over him.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Definitely, yeah. And it's always nice to have a homegrown player, obviously understands the club even better than someone you bring in. But I think he's got that more scope to develop. I think he'll be more open to the club developing as a player and improving, perhaps than Fleming might have been. But I do think maybe we might see a different Fleming at Burnley. Although I don't think Burnley are going to dominate like they did last time in this division. I think they might be they might struggle a little bit more than they did before, and so there might be a bit more pressure on Fleming than he perhaps expects.
Yeah, we'll see. And also, John mentioned Casper Denor. I think whilst I'm on the subject of midfielders, I just want to mention Casper, because I thought he played really well. And he does have an attacking sensibility about him.
Yeah.
Saville is Joel Saville, great servant for the club. Billy's injured, and I like Billy, but he's a more defensively minded player perhaps than Casper. Casper's not afraid to get forwards, as that third goal showed. It was a nice move down the right side by Casper and a good cross into a danger zone. So Good to see him getting regularly picked as well. I've liked Casper for a long while, but he just couldn't fork his way into that team last season.
Yeah, again, another player. I think if he's shown the faith by the coach, then and you play him week in week out, even if he has perhaps a quiet game, you keep playing him, then I think he will develop and give you the performances. I think sometimes we just got a bit more patient, really.
Absolutely. Let's have a listen now to Aussie Dave Baccarini, all the way from. I don't know where you are, Dave. I think I'm going to go with Wagga Wagga, which I've always loved as a place name in Australia. You're probably not there, mate, but I'm going to go with it because I like it.
What a difference a day makes, 24 little hours. Hello, Nick. Aussie Dave here. From the murderous game on Tuesday night on the Leighton Orient Express to the dizzy heights of yesterday, the ups and downs of a Millwall supporter. What a day. I've got one word to describe yesterday's game: unique. I can't remember the last game where we had about 4 or 5 players who all simultaneously had their best game of the season, like Brian, Denore, Sav, Essay. Another uniqueness. I can't remember the last time the opposition didn't have a dominant period within a game. We were full on for the 90 minutes. And another unique thing, most of our corners and free kicks were quite well taken. May not have ended up in much, but they're actually well taken, generally by Brian, so well done to him. And a couple of final points. By having Coburn, who had, as we all know, had a great game yesterday, it made the, whatever it is, the 4-2-3-1 system a lot more sense. I've been one of the many crying out for the good old 4-4-2. But if you've got a good centre forward, the system we're playing can work. So that's about it. We live for these type of days. Come on, you Lions.
Great stuff, Dave. Australia's got talent, mate. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. I think Dave's right. I mean, it's unusual for us to have so many good performances all in the same side. I do wonder, Merv, whether the Fleming question being solved has lifted a bit of a weight off that. Sometimes when a player wants out and everyone knows he wants out, it just creates a bit of a mood.
Yeah,
Having a bad, sad face at the table, isn't it? You know, it's a downer.
yeah. I mean, people obviously week in week out that was the accusation last year because of the Bernie speculation last summer, and it was constant saying, oh, he's obviously got the he's obviously sulking, and the club kept denying it and saying that no he's very professional and that, and I don't doubt it, even though I did accuse him on sulking and then retracted that. But I noticed there was a story on News at Den. There was a story.
So like you. What's become of you?
I know. I'm just terrible. When a good player leaves the club, I can't control myself. I can't help it. Red mist descends and saying it, but I think it's News at Den. I think confirmed that that Fleming was actually pretty much decided or agreed that he was going to leave at the end of last season, and the club sort of admitted that he was disappointed not to get to the move to Burnley and play in the Premier League. So. Football's very secretive. We never really know exactly what goes on behind closed doors in dressing rooms, in boardrooms. But I think sometimes it's quite easy to work out, and it's about as complex as a Coronation Street plot, to be fair, isn't it? And you can usually work it out. And I think that was pretty much a given. You can't blame him for being disappointed last summer when they threw Burnley, newly promoted to the Premier League, offering him 15 million quid, or offering Millwall 15 million quid, and he probably was frustrated about that, and it must have shown through in the dressing room. I mean, even if he wasn't sulking or even if he wasn't not putting it in, players and fans are going to accuse you that anyway if you have a bad game. So he couldn't win really.
No. I actually don't blame a player for wanting the move. I mean, I know we all get emotionally embroiled because we're here with fans for life, and from a player's point of view, Merv, it's a job, isn't it? It's like being offered a better wage somewhere else.
It's a short career. Oh yeah, it's a short career, and none of us would turn it down. So
it's a short career, and you're one bad injury away from being, League Two level if you can make it back.
Yeah.
So I don't blame a player for wanting to. Even now, obviously the financial rewards from his point of view, they might get if they make it into the Premier League, he might be on the deal with it. I don't know, but I don't blame him for wanting that.
No. Yeah.
We'd all do the same, listeners. Now we're going to take a short advertising break, and then we're going to come back with Harry Warren. Merv, like to finish us off, metaphorically speaking, Harry.
Achtung, Millwall.
Well, good morning, dear listener. Harry Warren here. Thought I'd ring in after the first win of the season. Long time coming. I thought to echo what Neil Harris said after the game in his post-match press conference. You know, if you watch our performances, we deserve more points than what we had. Obviously, the opening day against Watford, I think we're unlucky to not get a point, if not all three. Keeper makes a mistake that you can't really make at this level. But, you know, since then, he's got better in most games so far that I've seen him in. And then, obviously, the Bristol City to come from behind and then win, again, shows the character of the squad that I think we've got, which we saw at the end of last season. So it kind of bodes well. What didn't bode well was every time that we went to the bench previously, we seem to get worse. Now, is that a sort of hangover of last season? Is that being quite threadbare? Obviously, before yesterday, no Fleming, which I'll get onto in a second, no Billy Mitch. And obviously for sort of 2 or 3 years now, we've been crying out for some width and some creativity. And also maybe a new number 9. And in one afternoon, one fell swoop, we've seemingly sorted all these problems out. And that's football, isn't it? It just catches you out. I thought that every single one of those players were very good on the day, apart from Joe Bryan, who was average. He's not my favourite player. And I'll say this, I'll credit my brother, because he said to me during the game, and it's ironic how Danny Mack's now become not just the second best right back at the club, but also the second best left back. Which is quite a bad state of affairs to be in as we sit here. But, you know, we won quite comfortably. I thought we were good in the first half. Coburn looks... Somebody said Chris Wood, and I kind of got the sort of link up, but he's a bit more mobile than Chris Wood in a weird way. He's a bit more... I don't know, he seemed to have a lot of pace for someone of his build and sort of framework, but he licked up really well and he gave us a focal point, and we done the long balls that normally come straight back at us, and they stuck, and you know, that brought Essay into play, and that brought Honeyman into play, and that brought Denor, who had an absolute storming game in the middle. Where's that been? Now, whether or not that's slightly realising a little bit of freedom, I don't know, in the system. Maybe realising that someone's got to step up and be the creator, because I thought he was yesterday at times. But every single player was fantastic. You could name every single one and go through them individually and thought they were brilliant. Which you know you're going to do well when 7 players play well, let alone 11. So yeah, realistically, I'm a little bit blown away by the change in performance between Tuesday and Saturday. It's a little bit of a shame now we get the international break. It's a very traditional Millwall to win before the international break, and then sort of be wanting the next game, which won't come, obviously. But yeah, really, to get the win done now, the proper football can almost start, and we've ended up with, you know, the Serbian obviously turning out to be injured that got reported after the game. At least we lose 2 weeks of that injury in terms of time due to the international break, and with Bradshaw out, we've got Langstaff and Coburn, which on yesterday sort of performance, Coburn and Langstaff might be fine. I thought in the moment when Cooper got his third goal, or got our third goal rather, I thought that Coburn had his attempt saved, but I've seen it back on the highlights and he actually did score, so we'd scored twice in that one goal, if that makes sense. But I thought everyone done well, you know, but you can't knock players that didn't do well. Essay was brilliant. There was a pass in the first half that absolutely nobody else at the club would have dared play. Sort of picked the ball up, done a turn in the middle and just sprayed it out wide right, just in front of me to where Leonard was bombing on. and it was perfect. It weren't too hard. It wasn't too soft. It was perfectly played along the ground. Perfect pass for Leonard to take in his stride without breaking kind of his natural running rhythm. And again, there are some young players in this side that are very, very good. And as long as we're patient, this is a big thing with Millwall. They're not going to do that every day. They're not going to do that every game that we do. And we need to be patient with this Millwall side. And you've kind of got to have a look at what they're trying to do. They've seemingly signed a lot of young players in this window. So the sort of finishing 10th, 8th, 7th, 13th under Gary Rowett, this team might not be able to do that for 2 or 3 years because we might be building to get back to that with players with resale value. And if we are doing that, that's fine. Now, if people are moaning about that, these might be the same people that are saying, they want a Joe Edwards rebuild not so long ago. So you got to be careful. Got to be careful what you wish for. But I think we need sort of, in a team of 11, you need sort of 6 experienced heads and maybe 3 or 4 young ones and some that sit somewhere in the middle. And maybe we'll get that eventually. But all in all, what a performance yesterday. Great win. 4 points out of the first 4 games. 3 points off the playoffs, 3 points off, I think 2 points off the relegation zone. The table doesn't mean anything really till October, does it? But yeah, we'll see how we go. Luton next at home, and we'll see how that goes. They've started poorly, but all in all, a good win. Nice to shut that second tier podcast up. If anyone's seen it, that's a bit of humble pie for them. But yeah, all in all, great win yesterday, and we'll move on to the next one. Come on, you Lions.
Nice one, Harry. Big thank you there. Upbeat Harry. It's the miracles do happen, Merv. It's wonders never cease with one decent win. Only at Millwall can we be a couple of points off the playoffs and a couple of points off at the relegation zone.
Yeah.
I do agree about patience. I mean, it's never been an attribute that's in great supply at the Den. But I do think there's some patience, especially with the likes of Femi Aziz coming in. I can see there's a great player there, but he's, there's aspects to his game, a bit like what we've seen with the development of Roman Esse, where he's added work rate and tracking back to his evident talent. I think that's what we're going to have to see with 1 or 2 others as well that are coming in, because that'll be the expectation heaped on them. But I do think there's a lot of potential at the club now, which is kind of refreshing to be able to say, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And I think, the patience thing is definitely true, because I think we discussed it last time we spoke about Esse. Esse's quality is he's fearless. He's not afraid of making a pass like Harry described there. But the trouble with that is, especially when you're learning the game, sometimes it won't come off. And as long as he doesn't get sort of barracked for that, back too badly, and people accept that that's actually a quality of his, eventually he'll erase that from his game, and he'll be a sort of a complete player. But yeah, there's I think we are getting a lot more patient with the players. I think we're starting to see now what the club's doing, what the plans are. And I'd actually forgotten about Femi Aziz, to be honest. In the wake of all the other players coming in, I'd forgotten about what with Wintle and Coburn and the Liverpool lad whose name has already escaped.
Scanlon,
that's it. Yeah. So yeah,
Scanlon.
I mean, it is encouraging, and it's been a bumpy start, but say take the positives. 8 goals in 4 league games isn't too shabby.
And improving performances,
and getting better. Yeah, that's all we can ask for, really. Yeah, definitely. And I think so. Maybe the Josh Coburn player is just a player that unlocks the way Harris wants to play, because Neil Harris's last summer transfer window at Millwall, he signed Matt Smith, I think, wasn't it? Was that right? Yeah, in 2019. Smith was that sort of player who could hold the ball up, and he helped the team to play the way Harris wanted to play and brought other players into it. And of course, Smith didn't last that long under Gary Rowett, and Gary Rowett never really brought in a player of that sort of ilk, and obviously played a very different way, similar with Joe Edwards. So I think this is the sort of football Millwall fans like to see, because it's not just a matter of lumping. Yeah, not just a matter of aimlessly lumping it into the box, as Harry rightly said. Get it into the box. If you're keeping it in the box, that's when that's when it gets exciting, and that's what gets the crowd behind you, and quite often gets goals. And I think that might be what brings the best out of Langstaff as well, because he's very much sort of an in the box sort of player.
Yeah. Fast, direct attacking football.
Yeah,
That'll do me if every other week when I go to watch
yeah,
Millwall.
yeah.
And I think it'll do the majority of Millwall fans. So
Hmm.
excellent stuff. Merv, it's been great catching up with you again, mate. Good to have you back on the show.
Yeah, enjoyed it.
Before we close out, I just want to mention, I've mentioned it on each of the shows, and apologies for anyone getting bored with this, but Bill Slack, who does it, one of our regular contributors to the show, he did the walk for Isla with me a few years ago, where we walked from the West Ham training ground to the Stratford. And we're going to do something similar for a great cause, a young boy, a West Ham under-14 goalkeeper who's suffering with brain cancer, Oscar Fairs, I think his surname is. We're going to do a walk from the Den on Sunday, the October the 14th. We're going to do it as hopefully a fundraiser. I was amazed because Bill put me onto this story on Thursday, and I said, okay, we'll do what we did before, only from the Den this time. And the funds, the target of the fundraiser is 100,000. It was on 64,000 when I set up the post on Twitter, and it's gone over to 115,000 when I looked last. So it's certainly busted the target. But as is the way of these things, families will always need more money than they anticipate. So it's 115,000 now of the £100,000 target. So any donations out there, listeners, will be more than welcome. I will stick the link in the show notes. It's on Twitter. I've pinned it on Twitter, so you can find it on there. We're walking from the Den via Coldblow Lane. We're going to go under the Greenwich Foot Tunnel, up through the Isle of Dogs, past the old sites of the old stadiums, and then finish at the London Stadium on the Sunday. It's an international break weekend, so hopefully that will help get some interest. We've had the Southwark News on to us this morning, so hopefully we'll get some publicity through that as well. So it's a great cause. Any help, any donations, much appreciated. And pity me, Merv, I've got to go dressed in claret and blue to do this because I made the rash statement. If we got over 75,000, which I thought would look like quite a target at the time, I'd go in a West Ham shirt. The last one I had, I got rid of. I thought, well, I won't need that anymore. When I did the Isla walk, I gave that to one of these these clothes collection things, So I've got to go and get myself another West Ham shirt to do this walk. So pity me, dear listeners, but for a good cause, I don't mind it. Any help and support will be much appreciated. So that's on Twitter, as I say. Merv, good to see you, mate. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. And thank you to you too, dear listeners, for tuning into these shows. Nice to have happy, upbeat shows. We'll be back probably after the international break sometime. I'm going to have a weekend off. And Merv and I'll be back in a couple of weeks' time. So until then, from Merv, it's good night.
Good night.
And from me, it's Arrivederci Millwall. Bye for now.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.